I'm the priest at the Church of St. Stephen in the Fields, which is the Anglican church in Kensington Market. It's been here for, pre-Confederate, since 1858. We've been here and have always been very much a part of the community. A lot of community agencies were founded out of the church, and we continue to do work with a range of people in the community, but we do quite a bit of work with people who are highly marginalized, unhoused, generally struggling. I think the city is in a difficult position. I'm going to grant them that. They are the least resourced level of government, and the provision of housing seems to have been almost entirely downloaded to them. And that's obviously a problem. The city cannot possibly create housing at the level that is needed. There are thousands and thousands of people without housing in Toronto, and the city, acting alone, can't provide that much housing. That said, I think they would do better to be more honest about that. There has been a tendency at the city, and this has not changed, this has been consistent over time. Many people in the city structure, many city staff and some politicians, insist that the city is doing a good job or an adequate job. They're not. There's nothing like enough shelter, enough support, enough of anything. And while I grant that it's probably impossible for the city independently to provide that, pretending that resources exist which don't actually exist is not helping anybody. So they have tended to create a situation in which a lot of people who are not close to things on the ground think that people are in encampments voluntarily, and that there are lots of options for them to be in appropriate shelter if they took up those options. That's not true. It's never been true. It's less and less true all the time. I'd say most people are sympathetic up to a point, and then at a certain point they start blaming the people who are homeless. People keep saying, I'm sympathetic, but there just seem to be more and more people. Well, yes there are. And there will be, until the governments actually take this seriously, which it appears they are never going to do. This is the long outcome of decades of neoconservative policies which have disenfranchised people. Why is there growing homelessness? It's not because people want to be homeless. There's growing homelessness because the provincial and federal governments abandoned housing decades ago, and we are now reaping the whirlwind. When people go into city-provided indoor space, they tend to be extremely isolated. They're treated as isolated units, and they're largely isolated from community. It's extremely hard to build community in a shelter. They're not built that way. They don't accommodate that. And community is a tremendous support for people. People, in part, don't want to leave because they want to be in community. People get evicted from shelter hotels over and over. The bar for eviction is incredibly low, and most of the offenses are related to trying to maintain community, like having somebody in your room, like missing bed check because you're visiting a friend. What would actually make things better for everyone is if the city took much more of a harms reduction approach to encampments. If they provided more services for encampments, more garbage pickup, more help with cleaning up things, more provision of fire extinguishers and other fire safety equipment, more provision of everything, help people live in a safer and more decent way in this situation until they are genuinely able to be out of it. No significant decision should be made affecting the lives of any constituency of people without those people being included in the decision making. Primarily a matter of taking time. You can't rush an effective consultation with people who have a deep distrust of authority, a deep and well-founded distrust of authority. You need to spend a significant amount of time establishing that you are a person who can be to some degree trusted before people will be willing to speak to you. We need also to be able to talk to people in the community who are upset about the reality of the situation we're in and about what a harms reduction approach can look like. What can it look like to make it easier for people who live around here? What education is needed for people to understand what's genuinely dangerous to them and what just feels dangerous to them because it's unfamiliar? And the things that are genuinely dangerous, how do we work together to alleviate that? Talk to neighbors. If there are people living near an encampment who are sympathetic, who understand what's happening, talk to your neighbors who are angry. Try to explain to them what your perspective is, what you're seeing, how we can all live together better.